I learned that when I play well, I can compete with the best players in the world.
You don't get many Open championships at St. Andrews in your lifetime. Anytime you come up short, it is certainly disappointing.
That week has definitely changed the way I look at myself and the way I look at major championships.
It was just a nation of so many different emotions all at once. Those are the kind of memories that I will cherish forever.
In 2015, golf's most revered championship returned to the home of the game. The 144th Open was played on the old course at St. Andrews. But for the first time in 61 years, the champion did not defend. Injury prevented world #1 Rory McIlroy from attempting to retain the claret jug. His enforced absence served to sharpen the focus on a 21-year-old Texan. Jordan Spieth was halfway to an unprecedented Grand Slam, having won the Masters and US Open.
Well, in the history of the game, there's just been very few people who've had a legitimate shot at the chronological Grand Slam.
It has happened before. Arnold Palmer had done it at St Andrews in 1960. In 1972, Jack Nicklaus had done it, and in 2002, Tiger Woods as well. These are the greats of the game.
It was like a throwback to the days in which they were truly dominant players, and when everybody thought, see, those days are over, maybe we're seeing another one right now.
But golf's newest force had never set eyes on the world's oldest course.
Jordan, part of your preparation for coming to the Old Course this week was to be in a video simulator. How valuable was that for you?
It was valuable. I have a full swing golf simulator at my house, and I was playing with some buddies, and I figured why not play the Old Course since we're heading there. And it was cool to see some of the start lines, but it's still not the same as being here. The course was a lot easier with no breeze coming out of the air conditioner in that room.
Yeah, nicely.
Unconventional preparation and a lack of experience meant little.
Making it look very simple. Down the fairway, on the green, holes or putts. It's not a bad way of playing golf.
The St Andrews rookie stood 5 under par through 7 holes.
You need to take advantage in those conditions on that 9 holes, not just to post a good first round, but to also give yourself, enough leeway under par to be able to continue to ride on that throughout the week. So I think it maybe exceeded a little bit of expectations. That was a beautiful start.
A month after Spieth stole the US Open from Dustin Johnson, they were playing partners. But the disappointment of Chambers Bay had no bearing on Johnson's performance.
It was actually a good pairing to have. Jordan's a friend of mine. I enjoyed playing with him. We have a lot of fun. It was totally fine with me. So it got off to a really, really good start. We were all kind of feeding off each other.
Launched it miles in the air. He can get so much height with the power he has.
Johnson has made a habit of starting fast in majors. His 65 would secure the first round lead. And yet, having never previously done battle with the Old Course, Spieth's 67 was even more impressive.
Oh, you're kidding me. How many great putts has he made today?
I just think he followed his instincts on that golf course, liked it immediately, like so many really great players do. This is the home of golf. I'm going to love this place.
Throughout his career, Tiger Woods has relished competing at St Andrews. 2 of his 3 Open victories have been achieved here, but any hopes of another quickly evaporated.
I don't believe it. Got a bit steep on it.
His visit to the Burn on the 1st was a sign of things to come. Having signed for a 76, Woods was in severe danger of missing the cut. Faring much better was fellow American Jordan Niebrugger, who shot a 67. It was the lowest round ever recorded by an amateur in the Open at St Andrews. More often than not, those teeing off late encounter tougher conditions. Day one was no exception, but defying a freshening wind, Englishman Danny Willett shot 66.
You know, you want a nice start in a major. It's always nice to get off to a good start, you know, not doing anything daft, but to go to bed one back and knowing that I was playing good golf is, yeah, obviously for me it's the best position I've been in a major up to date, so yeah, it was brilliant.
Matching Willett's score was former Masters champion Zach Johnson.
My round on Thursday was awesome. I putted great, and I got 5 under through 9 holes, and I was making putts. I mean, I was making 8-footers to 20-footers at that point. But to get into it on that first day, you know, you can't win it that first day, but you certainly can probably take yourself out of it. So that was a nice boost.
Following a day of outstanding scoring, Zach Johnson and Danny Willett, the pick of the afternoon starters, found themselves in a group of 6 players, only one off Dustin Johnson's lead. As forecast on Friday morning, the elements intervened. Heavy rain on Scotland's east coast was at its most intense at St Andrews.
It was almost a deluge. I mean, the water just grew and grew and grew. There was a couple players that went to go warm up, and they came back in and changed to put on new clothes to go play. We heard, hey, yeah, they postponed the tournament. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. For what?
You know, in the space of, I think, 30, 40 minutes, they just had a ridiculous torrential downpour that had caused everything to flood. Obviously, all the little humps and hollows around St Andrews, they just had loads of collection areas where there was basically ponds.
I never expected a rain delay at the Open Championship, because you get rain every year.
But not since the Centenary Open in 1960 had such a ferocious cloudburst caused play to be suspended at the old course.
When it rains here, it rains. Fortunately, we have 100 feet of sand here at St Andrews, if you dig down. And once the water started to permeate the top layer, it drained away very quickly. The vast majority of golf courses in the world, you probably wouldn't have been playing at all that day. But we got back on and got a lot of golf in on the Friday.
The 3-hour delay certainly didn't dampen the spirits of Johnson and Willett. After fearing they would again play in testing weather, the rain ceased, clouds parted, and both players set about taking advantage. With the help of his caddy, Willett scaled new heights.
We birdied 5, the par 5, and I think we got into a tied lead at that point with Zach. And Johnny just said to me, he said, look at the leaderboard, pal. He said, you're leading the Open.
Johnson stalled.
3-shot lead for Willett now.
But Willett pressed on. A birdie at the last set the clubhouse lead.
We had a very good read. I thought it's got a good chance here. And then, yeah, for it to drop, it was one of them where you're like, bit of a Brucey bonus.
Yes, good roll, good rounds. Great position at halfway for Danny Willett.
We'd finished it 9 under par lead in the Open, and then you get a beautiful text off your mum that says, you know, well done for making the cut. A couple of kisses on there. So I give her a little text back saying, no, thanks, thanks for the vote of confidence.
Once again, Adam Scott moved into contention with a 67. The Australian's past near misses at the Open supplied all the motivation he required.
Adam, is there a sense of Open redemption in the soul after 3 years ago?
I definitely let that one slip, and you know, I think I'm playing with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder.
5 amateurs would eventually make the cut. With 2 rounds of 69, Ireland's Paul Dunn replaced Niebrugger as the best of them.
And well finished. Absolutely brilliant from Paul Dunn.
As the afternoon progressed, wind speeds continued to increase. Many suffered. But as the old course began to bare its teeth, Dustin Johnson stood firm.
That's not bad with the wind gusting across.
Playing in the Open Championship, you do expect that kind of wind where it's just howling, and you know, you're really gonna have to concentrate and play proper shots all day long.
This for the lead on his own.
You know, I was totally up for the challenge, and you know, I did. I played well.
While Johnson prospered, Spieth struggled.
Oh my goodness.
Now, not only was the old course alien, so too were the slate grey skies, unseasonal temperatures, and buffeting gusty wind.
I just remember it being extremely difficult. I was just trying to shoot anything under par, and you know, my distance control was off with the wind, and with that I was just trying to coast the ball near the hole to give myself a tap-in par. It was very, very challenging. At that time it was, let's try and get in at even par, regroup, and see if we can then make a run on the weekend.
Spieth slipped 5 shots off the lead as thoughts of completing the third leg of the Grand Slam began to recede. He was toiling, especially on the greens, and couldn't disguise his frustration. With light fading fast, Spieth knew he couldn't finish his second round on Friday. And a 5-time Open champion was also unsure whether he would be beaten by the gathering gloom.
The official came over on 17T and said, "Would you like to finish? You know, it's getting dark." And I deferred to Ernie and Brant. I said, you 2 players are in this tournament still, so you make this decision. He said, "Oh, no, we're finishing."
For the finest links player of golf's modern era, a journey at the Open that began in the 70s was about to end with one final walk. Like Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus before him, the great Tom Watson chose to say his goodbyes at St. Andrews.
I asked my son Michael if he'd caddy for me a long time ago, and he said he'd love to. And coming down the last hole, tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Son, no tears." It was a walk of joy. To have the crowd react the way they did to me, it humbles you. Little kids that didn't know who the heck I was, but their dad said, "Hey, there's Tom Watson. He won the Open here or there, you know." I was thinking about all the memories, the people who were in my life, who crossed my path and I crossed their paths. It was kind of all encompassed by that final walk. The game is a game of humility. You play the game, and sometimes you feel like you have it by the throat, other times it has you by the throat.
It's a joyous occasion.
You know, when you leave a career, you hope that you've done it right. And I think I have over the years.
Thank you, Tom.
An emotional and lengthy second day ended with Dustin Johnson still in control. But with 5 holes to play, on the most demanding stretch of the old course, he still had unfinished business. Round 2 resumed on Saturday morning at 7 o'clock. Wind speeds were a constant 30 miles an hour. Certain gusts were even more ferocious, and the air was chilled.
Wind was howling, as it was forecast to do, but it was playable. And one has to start play if the course was playable. It would have been unfair to the rest of the field in those circumstances not to start, so we chose to start.
The siren went for us to start, and it was like the wind picked up another 5 miles an hour.
On the 13th green, one of the most exposed parts of the old course, Oosthuizen and playing partner Tiger Woods encountered the full force of the elements.
It was not the ideal conditions to play golf in.
Goodness me, this is getting worse and worse.
Oosthuizen wasn't the only one having problems.
I remember hitting a chip shot, and I actually hit a pretty good chip, but the wind was blowing so hard it actually blew my chip shot down, like pushed it down, and it caught the top of the ridge. I went to Marc. I got, I don't know, an inch from putting my coin down. Wind blew my ball, and blew it all the way down off the green. You know, I ended up making bogey when I was right in front of the green in 2.
Conditions had worsened, and at 7:32 the championship was again suspended. This time, play would be delayed for over 10 hours, leaving the galleries to entertain themselves.
We have a great advantage in St Andrews that the course is right in the town and people can go out and into the town and then come back again. But boy, they were out in force, weren't they, when play restarted? And well, the great British public and the golf fans, they just love it. And very gratifying, really is.
The decision had been made. The Open would extend into Monday for only the second time in its history. With dinner time fast approaching, the players headed back out, and Louis Oosthuizen finally holed the par putt on the 13th he'd left just before breakfast.
Well played, Louis. He's had an awful long time to think about that.
The runaway champion at St Andrews in 2010 retained his sense of humour and finished 7 under. On the 17th, always demanding, regardless of the weather, Dustin Johnson continued to display imagination and a flair for links golf.
He's going to chase on nicely up the slope, and it'll come round a bit more. It's fine. Keep coming, keep coming. Beautifully done. Well judged from that rough.
But his playing partner Spieth suffered another setback. His normally dependable putter was again to blame.
You're 5 shots back of Dustin Johnson now, so quite a bit of work to do.
Yeah, sure. I need 2 very special rounds to keep this major streak alive. 5 3-putts today just isn't going to cut it. So you limit those, and all of a sudden I'm right up there at the top of the leaderboard.
After a grueling 24 hours, Dustin Johnson was still the clubhouse leader.
I don't even know what day it is, so. But you know, came out tonight and finished strong. You know, hard 16, 17, and birdied 18. I mean, to me, that's a very good finish. Very happy with it, and I'm happy with my position.
It had taken a while to get there, but at the halfway point of the championship, Johnson was a shot clear of Willett. At 7 over, Tiger missed the cut by 6. When the Open returns to St Andrews, Woods will be in his mid-40s. Some speculated he had done battle with the old course for the last time.
I thought when you were walking down 18, getting that reception, that if your struggles continued, the next one here is a long way off.
When is it?
It's 2020 or 21.
5 years. Usually every 5 years, right? Yeah. So I'll probably have less hair then, and you know, hopefully a little bit better game. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, guys.
For much of the previous day, the old course had been unplayable. In round 3, it was unprotected. Having made the cut by 1 shot, Marc Leishman surged through the field, reveling in the benign conditions. 8 under for the day, Leishman needed birdies on the closing 2 holes to shoot the lowest round in major championship history. But the 17th, as always, was a towering hurdle.
I am a naturally aggressive golfer. I love going for it. I feel like it's a game. I feel like trying to make birdies is the way I play my best.
Leishman's putt had record-breaking potential. It was not to be, and he eventually settled for a 64.
That was obviously a little bit disappointing not to shoot the 62 or 3, but it was definitely a good way to get myself into contention.
But things were not going to plan for Spieth. As putts began to elude him, an ever-increasing sense of urgency took hold.
I forgot about mechanics, just said, forget about this tournament and just feel it from there.
Spieth's intuition was spot on. He regained his momentum and began to dissect the tougher back 9.
And I remember hitting this left to right putt, and I remember seeing that putt coast in, thinking this is going to be a really, really good moment for me.
Birdies at 10, 11, and 12 would put him back in the running.
Oh, it's got that feel again. That's 3 in a row.
15 was a great hole for me. That was a nice wedge in there to a really tough pin.
Beautiful shot.
And that putt was actually very challenging, and I knew if I made it that I'd have an opportunity to be in the lead maybe going into the last round. And although I was one back, it certainly gave me the chance that I wanted.
Spieth was round in 66 and 11 under for the championship. Suddenly, golf's biggest story had new legs. The Grand Slam was alive and kicking. But the Texan didn't have a monopoly on the headlines. A 22-year-old from Dublin saw to that. Cheers reverberated as the amateur continued a march that defied his status.
Well, I think I have the habit of when I play around in golf, I kind of just walk with my head down a little bit. So at the start of the week, I could hear a few murmurs from the crowd being like, oh, there's Jordan Spieth. And then I lift my head up and disappoint a lot of people.
But the Irishman wasn't disappointing anyone with his game.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
The crowd started to get a bit bigger and went down 10. There was a leaderboard behind that hole, and I saw I was tied for the lead. So I knew if I made it, I'd go into the lead on my own.
For the outright lead, Paul Dunn.
When I rolled that one in, everyone went ballistic. The roar was so big, all I could do was smile and laugh. Just give him a wave, and on to the next hole, and do the same again.
Paul Dunn leads the Open as an amateur.
Dunn's playing partner, Louis Oosthuizen, was being upstaged.
What a shot from Paul Dunn. He is doing extraordinary things at the moment.
Played unbelievable. He made so many good putts for birdies, and you could just feel and see the crowd starting to be behind him.
Oh, yes, another one. There is no stopping this young man. 6th birdie of the day.
The crowds were incredible. I got so much unbelievable support. I felt like everyone out there was rooting for me.
If Dunn drew inspiration from the galleries, Oosthuizen found it in his surroundings.
It's a place you want to win it, and I lift my game every time I get to St Andrews.
Although Oosthuizen tied Dunn at the top on 12 under, the attention was squarely on the rookie.
Paul, if you're honest, can you really believe what's happening? Be really honest.
It's surreal that I'm leading the Open, but if we were playing an amateur event here, I wouldn't be too surprised by the scores I shot. It's just lucky that it happens to be in the biggest event in the world. So.
On an afternoon with so many compelling storylines, Jason Day flew under the radar. Regarded as one of the best players yet to win a major, he was 11 under at the difficult 15th.
15 was a good birdie for me. I felt like 15, 16, and 17, if I could get through those holes for the week, even par, I felt like I'd pick up shots on the field. But to be able to birdie 15 the way I did was special.
Oh, yes. Day to 12 under.
It was kind of a perfect storm for me, really, because no one was really talking about me, but on top of it, I was up on top of the leaderboard.
In the calm conditions, the overnight leader, Dustin Johnson, had failed to make any inroads, and his frustration started to show on the closing holes.
Dustin isn't taking any time at all on this back nine. He's just walking up and hitting it. This needs to go. Oh!
To me, it was almost like there wasn't enough wind blowing on the third round. Like, there was no wind, but I was almost like playing for the wind to move the ball, and it wasn't. So I just, I couldn't quite adjust to like the no wind conditions, and so it kind of gets you frustrated really easy.
And that's another shot dropped.
A run of bogeys at 16, 17, and finally 18 had ended the hopes of a man still in search of his first major.
To finish in such a dispiriting way, you could just see a sense of resignation, a sense of here we go again. Another major opportunity that I've created is slipping from my hands.
Now the only Johnson on the leaderboard was called Zach. Adam Scott and Danny Willett remained in the hunt, but Monday would dawn with an amateur sharing the lead for the 144th Open. What should have been a typical Monday morning in St Andrews wasn't.
There were families there. There were people who clearly had been on holiday in the area who thought that they couldn't get to the Open. All of a sudden, they could. These were raw sports fans watching great sport, and it was all a big bonus. It only cost them a tenner.
It would prove the sporting bargain of the year. Storylines were in ample supply, and from under the radar, Zach Johnson was planning to create another.
I knew if I wanted to make a move, the outward 9, the outward half of the golf course, if you will, was the one I really had to get at. I made a putt on 2 from 20-some feet, and it just felt like pressure's off, let's just play and see what we can do.
In grim conditions, Johnson added birdies on the 4th, 5th, and 7th. The American had climbed to 13 under.
You know, everything was just kind of coming together, and it just felt like, you know what, let's just keep the pedal down, because I know that these guys are going to get after it too.
He was right. With a run of birdies culminating on the 7th, Adam Scott reached 13 under.
Oh, beautiful putt by Adam Scott. The standard of play is remarkable, and the putting, screens are as good as they've ever been.
Scott and Johnson were now joint leaders. As they strove to make history, a figure already woven into the fabric of the Open was close to departing. The starter was about to finish.
It's been a great honour, really, to have been allowed to have the role for 41 years as the official starter for the greatest championship in the world. Well, there's been so many memorable moments, really, when you meet the greats, Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, Tom Watson. How can you follow these people? The great late Seve. You can't talk about golf without mentioning Seve, you know? He was a very good friend. He always used to call me Iva, my amigo. Yeah, we've got some nice memories.
Who could have foreseen the final name that Iva would announce?
On a tee from Ireland, Paul Dunn. Paul Dunn.
Not since the great Bobby Jones in 1927 had an amateur teed off as the 54-hole leader.
I mean, every day going out, you're nervous. If you're not nervous, there's something wrong with you. So it wasn't like a new feeling that I was nervous.
Yet his approach shot to the first suggested otherwise.
I hadn't seen myself hit an iron shot heavy ever. This was just one that I didn't know I could hit. And then to see it happen kind of unsettles you, thinking, well, what happens again?
Shaken, Dunn had made a bogey, but his more experienced playing partner, Louis Oosthuizen, began with a birdie.
Has he? Perfect start.
Still uneasy on the second tee, Dunn again misfired.
Thing went so far right. Again, it was a shot that I'd never used to see myself hit. So to have the second shot of the first and tee shot in the second just kind of got my mind going in the wrong direction.
Together with his score, Dunn didn't merely lose the lead in the championship. He had now been overtaken by Jordan Niebrugger in the race for the silver medal.
3 birdies in a row. Niebrugger is the leading amateur as it stands.
Jason Day improved to 14 under, with birdies on the 5th and 6th.
It's a superb shot from Day. Chance of back-to-back birdies.
But Day's every move was watched and matched by Jordan Spieth.
Now, he's arguably the greatest mid-range putter in the world, and this is his distance.
Oh, it is. It is Jordan Spieth chasing the slam.
By reaching the turn in 31, Scott briefly made it a four-way tie at the top.
Looking good. He's got it. He's got it.
But that logjam was broken by Johnson's birdie on the 10th. The American led by one. As he'd done the previous day, Marc Leishman was making a front nine move. But for Spieth, a destructive storm was brewing.
8 was just a very hard hole. We caught 8 at a bad 10-minute stretch of weather.
Jordan, come on, man.
The darker clouds were coming in. The mist started coming down.
Wow. It's going to be a longie.
He was trying to hit a draw hard into the wind. Instead, he left himself like an 80-footer, way to the right. He blocked it, he knew it immediately. Now he has a very difficult putt.
I just got a little too aggressive with the putt and hit it where it just can't be.
And now, you know, he's probably a little discombobulated. He's putting downwind this time and runs it about 3.5 feet past. And he four-putted. He missed that putt. It looked devastating. It looked like, okay, the Grand Slam's over, the four-putt that killed it, and it was a big mistake.
At the time, it was very frustrating. I certainly felt like it slightly slipped from me there because birdies were just going to be so hard to come by. And as we teed off on 9, that wind and rain was still up. So on 9 tee box, I'm thinking, you know, I still think I can do it.
And what's he do, of course? Being Jordan at this moment, he birdies it.
Battling back after the double bogey.
Then he birdies 10, another short par 4, takes advantage, gets back in the hunt. It's like he's going to do it. He's come back again. You know, he's the miracle kid.
Refusing to let the dream die, Spieth was back at 14 under. Up ahead, the leader embarked on the most demanding stretch at St Andrews.
Now we're going back in, and we're back into the wind. Essentially every shot is into the wind, and that becomes difficult. Trajectory control, spin control, and I would say rhythm is even more of a premium than it is when you're hitting downwind. So a punch 9 iron to about 7 feet just really added a level of confidence.
It also produced a birdie on the 12th.
Tell you what, are we looking at the champ?
You know, I mean, I started the day at 9 and now I'm at 16. I'm thinking, okay, I know I'm in this tournament.
But then a setback. Johnson fell foul of the 13th.
Don't go in there. That is probably the deepest bunker on the course. It's a real pot.
The bogey that resulted saw Johnson drop to 15 under and opened the door for those in pursuit. With birdies at the 9th, 10th and 12th, Marc Leishman reached 16 under. Suddenly, he was leading the Open.
Ooh, that's superb.
If you asked me 6 months ago, rightio, this is the situation you're going to be in, how do you think you'll feel? I'll be like, well, I'll be nervous as hell, of course. What do you think? You know, but I felt really comfortable, and it was a good feeling. I didn't feel out of the ordinary.
Niebrugger remained on course to receive the silver medal. Leishman held a one-shot lead over Johnson, but Scott's bogey on the 14th saw him to adrift. What followed on the 15th green was the killer blow.
Oh, I can't believe my eyes.
Yet another challenge for the claret jug was over. In contrast, Oosthuizen's stock rose with a birdie on the 12th that would carry him to 15 under. On the same score, and on the 17th, St Andrew's most fearsome hole, Johnson was about to lose his grip.
It was an awkward lie. My feet were uphill, the ball was downhill, and my right foot slipped and I chunked my 3-wood. I mean, I flat out chunked it.
Oh, no. Total slip of the feet game. God. Oh my goodness.
My nerves were going when I hit that second shot. It's the worst shot I hit all week. When it comes down to it, that's just golf. That dropped me back to 14, and I'm thinking, you know what, 14 might have a chance, but it's probably slim. But going into 18, I figured I had to make a birdie.
With the Valley of Sin ensnaring anything short, Johnson knew his second to the 18th had little margin for error. Pumped up by circumstance, he overshot the flag.
I may have given a little bit too much. It could have been adrenaline. I mean, you're on the 18th hole at a major championship at St. Andrews. There's going to be adrenaline, and you know, I might have hit it just a little bit too hard as a result.
Known for his tenacity, Johnson embraced the moment.
Putt was a left to right putt. With the last 6 to 8 feet, there was a straightening out, and then maybe even a slightly going back left at the end. And I remember telling Damon, my caddy, I'm like, I think I got this. And 2 feet out, I thought, here it comes.
Oh, you little beauty.
At that point, you know, I'm thinking, I'm in it. Posting 15 gives those guys something to at least think about.
Having found a bunker on the 16th, Leishman had a testing putt for par to remain the outright leader.
Oh, level.
The most compelling Open in recent memory had taken yet another turn.
Level with that Johnson now.
Acknowledging the crowds, Niebrugger marched up the 18th fairway the leading amateur, knowing he had done enough to win the silver medal. But 5 players could still win the championship. Having bogeyed the 13th, Oosthuizen trailed by 1, along with Day and Spieth.
At this point, I am scoreboard watching because you need to know how to play these holes. 16, I'm looking at the board thinking, you know, if we can go par, par, birdie, we have a chance here to force a playoff, and we can take them down in this playoff.
Throughout the championship, the 21-year-old displayed a clarity of thought and maturity that defied his age. Spieth had refused to accept defeat, and he wasn't about to start now.
He'd done it at Augusta. He'd done it at the US Open. He has seized the golfing moment at every opportunity this year. And there he was, 40, 50 feet away. And you're just suddenly starting to think, you know, the gods are on his side here. Everyone around that green had a feeling.
It had to coast out on the left side with perfect speed, and then it's almost a knob as it glides in. If it gets a little too far right, it falls 5 feet right. If it gets too far left, it falls 6 feet left. And it somehow just hung on that knob almost like a magnet, going right towards the center of the hole. And with about 3 feet to go, I thought to myself, there's no way.
The reaction of the gallery encapsulated the general view. History was in the making.
And I put the putter up and took in the crowd there behind 17, and what a cool moment that was. And I was obviously extremely pumped up and ready to go par birdie to win the championship.
Now 3 players were tied for the lead. 16 under looked to be the magic number, but magic deserted Spieth.
The shock was for someone who had seized the moment so brilliantly all year long and had just done what he'd done on 16. You really thought he was going to make that putt on 17.
In yet another twist, Spieth's bogey meant that on the 18th green, Leishman now had the biggest opportunity of his life.
When I was over that putt, I was thinking, you know, if this goes in, there's a really good chance that it could mean that you're going to win the Open. and that still gives me chills now.
The most important putt of his career never threatened. And with a par, Leishman joined Johnson as the clubhouse leader on 15 under.
Yeah, that's golf. Whether it was the pressure or what it was, just didn't see it how I wish I could have seen it.
Their fate was now out of their hands. Of the 4 players left on the course, 3 could still be crowned champion. Spieth and Day had one last chance.
Coming off a bogey, I needed a birdie. I think I tried to maybe hit my tee shot a little bit too far, and I got a little quick with it and came over the top. I hit it over to where I had a tough number. I had about 90 yards into that breeze. My sand wedge is a 105 to 110 yard club. I chose to hit it thinking it was going to be plenty. But with that cold Scottish air, it still wasn't enough club.
Steady. Very thing he didn't want.
And once it landed, I knew exactly where it was going to end up, which is just where you can't go. You just got to give yourself a chance.
He pulled up short, so, when you see someone pull up short and go short of that pin, it's pretty hard. I mean, you don't want to be in the valley. I wanted to make sure that I gave myself an opportunity on top of that hill, get it above, get it to the pin, and I did.
Well, chance.
Day's hopes were alive, but history rested heavy on the shoulders of Spieth. Could the miracle kid conjure up one more?
I hit a great putt, but from that distance, it would have just been half skill, half luck to get that thing to drop.
As with Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods before him, Spieth so narrowly missed out on the 3rd leg of the Grand Slam.
So I was obviously very disappointed walking off the green, not giving myself a real true opportunity, but we still battled so hard to give ourselves a chance. I look back on it as a single major. I don't look back on it as a 3rd in a row streak. You don't get many Open Championships at St. Andrews in your lifetime. And sure, there's certainly consolation in that we were so close, but in my mind, it was certainly still disappointing.
Now Day faced his dance with destiny.
You want to try and hole it to get into the playoff. That's what I want to do. Give myself an opportunity of winning the Open Championship. I read the putt to just fall in, Started on a good line, was going on a good line, and then it just kind of started to slow down. And when I saw it starting to slow down, I knew exactly. I'm like, oh man, this is going to turn. This is short. I mean, I was a little frustrated and disappointed after what had happened, but looking back on it now, I did a lot of good things. That whole week, I played fantastic golf. I felt like I played just as good as the guys that won. Nothing but fantastic experience for me. It felt good, and that week has definitely changed the way I look at myself and the way I look at major championships.
Louis Oosthuizen was now the last man on the old course who could win.
We were walking off the 18th tee box, and he put his arm around me and said, keep your head up, you should be really proud of what you did this week, enjoy the walk, and then kind of pushed me up the Swilcan Bridge first.
Amidst such pressure, a thoughtful gesture epitomised the South African.
That was a really class move from someone who has to make 3 to get into the playoff. I felt like turning around to him and being like, just go make birdie.
Well, down in 2, he's in the playoff. If he pops it in, King Louis is the champ.
I learned a lot watching Louis play. Even when he was contending, he was still talking to me, still offering bits of advice or patting me on the back if I hit a good shot. he was so relaxed, you know, just looked like he was taking everything in his stride. He was just a genuinely nice guy to play with. Kind of meant a lot to me.
Drawing on experience, the 2010 Open champion didn't falter. He was the third man into a 4-hole playoff.
Oosthuizen had to be the favourite. He was the last man on the course with Paul Dunne. Having holed that putt, he went into the recorder's hut, he signed his card and he walked straight onto the first tee. It was seamless. For Johnson, he'd been in for well over an hour. For Leishman, he'd been in for a long time as well. Leishman had never been in this position in a major before. Yes, Johnson had won the Masters before, but Oosthuizen had won the Open at St Andrews and was on a roll. This was the favourite.
Oosthuizen immediately justified that status.
It's really rare when the guy who takes the lead in the playoff loses. It doesn't happen very often. And so when Louis made that putt, that would seem like a crushing, you know, psychological advantage.
Louis knocks in a 15-footer right off the bat, and, you know, at that point you're like, okay, I can't get behind here.
Zach making the putt on top of him absolutely flipped it. It just changed the whole chemistry and the dynamic. And that's why that putt was, I think in Zach's mind, the biggest putt he made the whole championship.
Leishman made a bogey. Only 1 hole played, but already he faced a daunting task.
And it was not game over then, but it was, you know, 2 shots behind both Louis and Zach. That was pretty unlikely that I was going to claw that back.
It was now head-to-head. When Oosthuizen parred the second extra hole, Johnson was faced with an opportunity to strike.
I enjoy nervous situations. I enjoy crunch time situations, having to execute under command. I think the mental side of my game, I've always thought it's been pretty good. As far as magnitude, that was huge. That putt was probably bigger than the one putt I made on 18 in regulation. That was huge.
It was. With his birdie, Johnson led by 1, an advantage he maintained as they strode up the final playoff hole. Johnson's priority was to avoid the Valley of Sin. He did, and secured his par. Again, Oosthuizen had to master the 18th. He could afford only 2 more shots to provide one last twist in this already extraordinary championship.
It was one of those where I don't think I could have really done any better than that. I couldn't putt it, it was too big a slope, couldn't really judge the speed properly, so I had to fly it most of the way there.
Very good effort.
No amount of wind, rain or cold could deter them. The loyalty of the crowd had been rewarded with high drama. The Open had boiled down to this. After 5 days on the old course and a lifetime of effort, the journey was complete. From a youngster in the golfing backwater of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to victory at the home of the game, 39-year-old Zach Johnson was Open champion.
It was just a culmination of so many different emotions all at once. Awe, gratitude, thanks, and pride. You can't really put into words what it means to have that support and your best friend and wife alongside of you. Those are the kind of memories that I will cherish forever.
No Grand Slam for Jordan Spieth, but there was a grand gesture.
You're talking about a guy that was chasing history. For him to share that, at least you know, be a small part of it in that sort of arena right there on 18 was very kind. He's a great player, but he's a better person.
Another respected figure was about to conduct his final presentation ceremony.
I'm retiring in September. 16 Opens, all of them enjoyable, all of them with their own memories. But of course we're just here taking care of something that's going to outlast us. And, had a great run and enjoyed every minute of it. Ladies and gentlemen, with a score of 273, the winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Zach Johnson.
It's a beautiful phrase and certainly a beautiful title to have. And there's responsibility with that too. It's not just a title. And I hope I don't ever lose track of that. I won't take that for granted because the names that are on that jug are the guys that have pioneered the game, that have paved the way for all of us. It's a pretty awesome piece of silver. My family and I, we just, you know, I'm CGOTY. If you have any questions, it's CGOTY. So I'm gonna use that one a lot this year.